Imagine a man running across a desert, desperately chasing a shadow. The faster he runs, the further the shadow moves away. Hour after hour, he exhausts himself chasing something he can never catch. Then an old man says, "Stop chasing the shadow." The man asks, "Then how do I catch it?" The old man replies, "Turn toward the sun, and the shadow will follow you." Most people spend their lives chasing the dunya like that shadow. But Islam teaches a different secret. Turn your heart toward Allah and watch how the dunya begins to follow. Tonight, let's discover the powerful lessons Islam teaches about truly winning this world. The people who win this dunya first surrender their hearts to Allah. Have you ever felt like the harder you chase success, the further peace seems to move away from you? You work harder, you think more, you plan more, you set bigger goals. You tell yourself that once you achieve this one thing, everything will finally feel right. Maybe it is more money. Maybe it is a better career. Maybe it is marriage. Maybe it is recognition. Maybe it is a dream you have carried in your heart for years. But after every achievement, something strange happens. The happiness lasts for a moment. Then the heart starts searching again. Another goal appears. Another desire is born. Another mountain needs to be climbed. And without realizing it, you spend years running after success while peace remains just out of reach. This is because Allah never created your heart to be satisfied by dunya. The heart was created to know Allah. The heart was created to remember Allah. The heart was created to find peace with Allah. That is why some people have everything the world can offer and still feel empty inside. They have wealth but no peace. They have status but no contentment. They have followers but feel lonely. They have success but still feel like something is missing. And what is missing is not another achievement. What is missing is closeness to Allah. Many people think the formula for winning this dunya is to make dunya their greatest priority. They wake up thinking about it. They sleep thinking about it. They sacrifice their peace for it. Sometimes they even sacrifice their relationship with Allah for it. But Islam teaches a completely different path. Islam teaches that when Allah becomes your priority, everything else begins to fall into its proper place. This does not mean you stop working hard. It does not mean you stop pursuing goals. It does not mean you become lazy and expect miracles. No, the believer works hard. The believer strives. The believer pursues excellence. But there is one difference. His heart is attached to Allah, not to the outcome. Because he understands that success comes from Allah, opportunities come from Allah, provision comes from Allah, honor comes from Allah. And what Allah has written for you will never miss you. The moment you truly understand this, something beautiful happens. The fear begins to disappear. You stop panicking about every delay. You stop comparing your life to everyone around you. You stop feeling destroyed when things do not happen according to your plans. Because you know that Allah's plan is greater than your own. Many of the greatest people in Islamic history understood this lesson. They did not become successful because they worshipped success. They became successful because they worshipped Allah, and Allah placed barakah in their efforts. That is the secret many people spend their entire lives trying to discover. The people who truly win this dunya are not those who make the dunya their God. They are the ones who surrender their hearts completely to Allah. When Allah becomes the center of your life, success stops controlling you. Money stops controlling you. People stop controlling you. Fear stops controlling you. You begin living with a different kind of confidence. A confidence that comes from knowing that your future is in the hands of the Most Merciful. If you want to win this dunya, do not begin by chasing the world. Begin by surrendering your heart to the one who created the world. Because when Allah becomes enough for you, You discover a peace that no amount of worldly success could ever provide. Your biggest enemy is not shaitan, it is the nafs you refuse to control. Have you ever promised yourself that this time would be different? You told yourself you would stop the habit. You told yourself you would become more disciplined. You told yourself you would wake up for Fajr consistently. You told yourself you would spend less time chasing distractions and more time pursuing what truly matters. Yet somehow, after a few days or a few weeks, you found yourself returning to the same patterns, the same temptations, the same weaknesses, the same excuses. And sometimes it leaves you wondering why change feels so difficult. One of the greatest lessons Islam teaches is that the biggest battle of your life is not always against the world around you. It is often against the world inside you. Many people spend their lives blaming circumstances. They blame other people. They blame bad luck. They blame society. They blame shaitan for everything. But the truth is that shaitan can only whisper. He can invite, he can tempt, he can encourage, but he cannot force. The real battlefield is the nafs. The nafs is the part of you that wants immediate pleasure. The part that wants comfort instead of discipline. The part that wants shortcuts instead of effort. The part that says, I'll change tomorrow. The part that says, one more time won't hurt. The part that constantly tries to pull you away from the path that leads to Allah. And if you are not careful, your nafs can become a prison. Because every great thing in life requires you to overcome it. You cannot build discipline without fighting the nafs. You cannot protect your prayers without fighting the nafs. You cannot lower your gaze without fighting the nafs. You cannot become patient without fighting the nafs. You cannot become successful without fighting the nafs. That is why some people have enormous potential but never fulfill it. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunities, but because they never learn how to say no to themselves. The strongest person is not always the one who can overpower others. The strongest person is the one who can overpower his own desires when they try to lead him away from Allah. Look at the successful believers throughout history. They were not people who never felt temptation. They were not people who never struggled. They were not people who never made mistakes. They were people who refused to surrender to their lower desires. Every time they fell, they stood up again. Every time they slipped, they returned to Allah again. Every time their nafs pulled them away, they fought their way back. This is why controlling your nafs is one of the greatest keys to winning this dunya. Because once you learn to control yourself, very little in this world can control you. Your emotions stop controlling you. Your desires stop controlling you. People's opinions stop controlling you. Temporary pleasures stop controlling you. And suddenly, you begin making decisions based on faith instead of feelings. The person standing between you and the life Allah wants for you may not be another person. It may not be society. It may not be your circumstances. It may be the version of yourself that refuses to grow. The day you begin conquering your nafs is the day you begin conquering your future. Because the one who masters himself has already won half the battle of life. Allah does not give greatness to those who quit when life becomes hard. Have you ever looked at your life and wondered why your journey feels harder than everyone else's? You see people achieving things you have been praying for. You see doors opening for others while yours remain closed. You see people moving forward while you feel stuck. And sometimes, if you are honest, you begin questioning whether all your effort is even worth it. You keep trying, you keep praying, you keep being patient, yet the results seem so far away. This is the moment where many people give up. Not because they are incapable, not because they are weak, but because they misunderstand the purpose of hardship. Most people see difficulty as a sign to stop. The believer learns to see difficulty differently. The believer understands that many of Allah's greatest gifts are hidden behind tests. Think about it. Every precious thing requires struggle. Knowledge requires struggle. Strength requires struggle. Character requires struggle. Success requires struggle. Even Jannah requires struggle. Nothing valuable comes without effort. Yet when hardship enters our lives, we sometimes assume something must be wrong. We assume Allah has forgotten us. We assume our prayers are not being heard. We assume our future is falling apart. But what if the hardship is actually proof that Allah is preparing you? What if the delay is developing patience you will need later? What if the obstacle is building strength that success will require? What if the closed door is protecting you from something you cannot see? Allah sees the entire picture while we only see one small part of it. This is why trust in Allah becomes so important during difficult seasons. Because faith is not proven when everything is easy. Faith is proven when everything is difficult and you continue trusting Allah anyway. The strongest believers are not those who never face tests. The strongest believers are those who continue walking toward Allah while carrying those tests. They continue making dua. They continue praying. They continue improving. They continue trusting, even when they do not understand what Allah is doing. Remember that many of the prophets faced extraordinary hardships. They experienced rejection, loss, pain, loneliness, opposition, yet none of them quit, because they understood something many people forget. The road to greatness is rarely comfortable. The road to greatness is often paved with patience. Every test you survive strengthens you. Every hardship you endure teaches you. Every setback can become a preparation for a future blessing. The person you become during the struggle is often more valuable than the thing you are struggling for. Do not let temporary hardship convince you to abandon a permanent reward. Do not let a difficult chapter make you believe your story is over. Allah is capable of changing your situation in a single moment. The door that has been closed for years can open tomorrow. The prayer you have been making for a decade can be answered tomorrow. The breakthrough you cannot see may already be on its way. So keep moving, keep trusting, keep praying, keep striving. Because Allah does not give greatness to those who quit when life becomes hard. He gives it to those who remain faithful while walking through the storm. The blessings you are praying for are often hidden behind patience. Have you ever begged Allah for something with all your heart, only to feel like nothing was happening? You made dua after dua. You prayed during the night. You raised your hands with sincerity. You cried. You hoped. You waited, yet days turned into months, months turned into years, and the thing you desperately wanted still seemed far away. Maybe it was marriage, maybe it was financial relief, maybe it was healing, maybe it was success, maybe it was a door you believed would completely change your life. And if you are honest, there were moments when you felt discouraged. Moments when you wondered if Allah was listening. Moments when you questioned why your answer seemed delayed, while other people appeared to receive what they wanted so quickly. One of the most difficult lessons in Islam is the lesson of patience, because patience forces you to trust Allah when you cannot see what He is doing. Anyone can trust Allah when the answer arrives immediately. Anyone can trust Allah when everything is going according to plan. But real faith appears when the answer is delayed and you continue believing anyway. The truth is that Allah's delays are not like human delays. When people delay something, it is often because they forgot, because they are incapable, because they are distracted, because they lack power. But Allah is never forgetful. Allah is never incapable. Allah is never unaware of your situation. Every tear you have cried is known to Him. Every dua you have whispered is known to Him. Every fear you carry is known to Him. And every second of waiting is known to Him. So if Allah delays something, there is wisdom behind that delay. Sometimes Allah delays a blessing because you are not ready for it yet. You think you need it now, but Allah knows that receiving it now could harm you. Sometimes Allah delays a blessing because He is preparing something better. You are asking for one thing. Allah intends something greater. Sometimes Allah delays a blessing because He wants you to grow through the waiting. Because there are lessons you can only learn in the valley. There are strengths you can only develop through hardship. There is closeness to Allah that often appears only when you have nowhere else to turn. Think about your own life. How many times did something not happen when you wanted it to? And later you realized that Allah was protecting you. How many doors closed that eventually led you to better doors? How many disappointments became hidden blessings? At the time you could not understand. At the time it felt painful. At the time it felt unfair. But later the wisdom became clear. That is why patience is not passive. Patience is not sitting still and doing nothing. Patience is continuing to trust Allah while continuing to move forward. Patience is waking up every day and believing that Allah's plan is still unfolding. Patience is refusing to lose hope when circumstances look impossible. Patience is understanding that Allah's timing is always more perfect than your own. Many people give up moments before their breakthrough arrives. They become tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of believing. And they walk away from the very thing Allah was preparing for them. Do not be one of those people. Keep making dua, keep praying, keep improving, keep trusting. Because your waiting is not wasted. Your tears are not wasted. Your patience is not wasted. Allah sees every moment of it. And one day, when the answer finally arrives, you may look back and realize that the waiting itself was one of the greatest blessings Allah ever gave you. One prayer can open doors that years of struggle cannot. Have you ever reached a point where you felt completely powerless? A point where no matter how much effort you made, nothing seemed to change. You tried solving the problem yourself. You created plans. You worked harder. You worried constantly. You searched for answers everywhere, yet the situation remained the same. And slowly, you began carrying a burden that felt heavier every day. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that everything depends on their own strength. They begin to think that success depends entirely on their effort, that solutions depend entirely on their intelligence, that outcomes depend entirely on their abilities. But Islam teaches something profoundly different. Islam teaches that while effort is necessary, ultimate control belongs to Allah alone. There are doors that no amount of effort can open. There are hearts that no amount of persuasion can change. There are situations that no amount of planning can fix. There are opportunities that no amount of networking can create. But Allah can change all of them in a single moment. This is why dua is one of the greatest weapons a believer possesses. Dua is not merely a ritual. Dua is not merely a habit. Dua is a direct conversation with the Lord of the worlds, the one who controls every heart, the one who controls every opportunity, the one who controls every outcome. When you make sincere dua, you are speaking to the one who has power over everything that seems impossible to you. Think about how many stories in Islamic history were transformed through Allah's intervention. Situations that appeared hopeless became miracles. Problems that seemed permanent disappeared. Doors that seemed sealed forever suddenly opened. Not because human beings became stronger, but because Allah decided to help them. And Allah's help can arrive from places you never expected. Sometimes one sincere dua changes the direction of an entire life. sometimes one prayer made in the depths of the night opens opportunities that years of effort could never create. Sometimes one moment of complete sincerity becomes the reason Allah changes your future. The problem is that many people stop making dua because they do not see immediate results. They ask once, twice, a few times, then they assume nothing is happening. But Allah hears every dua, every single one. No sincere prayer is ever ignored. Sometimes Allah gives exactly what you ask for. Sometimes He delays it. Sometimes He replaces it with something better. Sometimes He protects you from something you cannot see. But every sincere dua reaches Allah. Never underestimate what Allah can do. The situation that looks impossible to you is easy for Him. The obstacle that terrifies you is small before Him. The future that worries you is already known to Him. So continue striving, continue working, continue taking action. But never forget where true power comes from. Because one sincere prayer made with complete trust in Allah can open doors that years of struggle could never open. And that is one of the greatest secrets of truly winning this dunya. The moment you stop chasing people, Allah restores your honor. Have you ever noticed how much of your life has been spent trying to gain the approval of other people? You wanted them to like you. You wanted them to understand you. You wanted them to appreciate your efforts. You wanted them to recognize your value. And perhaps, without realizing it, you slowly began building your happiness around their opinions. When they praised you, you felt confident. When they ignored you, you felt hurt. When they accepted you, you felt important. When they rejected you, you questioned your worth. This is a trap that many people fall into. They spend years chasing acceptance from people who are just as weak, just as limited, and just as dependent as they are. They sacrifice their peace trying to satisfy everyone. They sacrifice their principles trying to fit in. They sacrifice their authenticity trying to avoid criticism. Yet no matter how much they give, it never feels enough. Because the truth is simple. People's approval is one of the most unstable things in this world. The same people who praise you today may criticize you tomorrow. The same people who support you today may abandon you tomorrow. The same people who celebrate you today may forget you tomorrow. If your happiness depends on people, your peace will always be fragile. This is why Islam teaches us to attach our hearts to Allah rather than to creation. There is a difference between loving people and needing people. There is a difference between respecting people and depending on their approval. A believer can love others deeply while keeping his heart attached to Allah alone, because he understands that people's opinions do not define his worth. Allah does. Many of us carry wounds because we expected too much from people. We expected loyalty from those who were never loyal. We expected gratitude from those who were never grateful. We expected understanding from those who never tried to understand us. And every disappointment left another scar. But sometimes Allah allows these disappointments for a reason. Because if people gave you everything you wanted, you might never learn to depend on Allah. If every person stayed, you might forget the one who never leaves. If every relationship fulfilled you completely, you might never seek fulfillment from your Creator. This is why some of the most painful experiences in life become the very experiences that bring us closer to Allah. The betrayal teaches you where true loyalty comes from. The rejection teaches you where true acceptance comes from. The loneliness teaches you where true companionship comes from. And slowly your heart begins to change. You stop begging for attention. You stop chasing validation. You stop constantly worrying about what others think. You stop measuring your value through people's reactions. Instead, you begin asking a different question. Not, are people pleased with me? But, is Allah pleased with me? And that single shift changes everything. Because when Allah becomes your focus, you gain a freedom that many people never experience. You are no longer controlled by praise. You are no longer destroyed by criticism. You are no longer desperate for acceptance. You become steady. You become confident. You become peaceful. Not because everyone approves of you, but because you know who you are before Allah. One of the greatest ways to win this dunya is to stop making people your destination. Love them, respect them, serve them, but never place them in the position that belongs to Allah. Because the moment you stop chasing people and start chasing Allah, something incredible happens. Allah restores your dignity. Allah restores your confidence. Allah restores your peace. And the honor you once searched for in people begins coming directly from the one who controls every heart. The secret of true success is using the dunya without letting it enter your heart. One of the greatest misunderstandings people have about Islam is believing that success and spirituality cannot exist together. Some people think that if you want to be close to Allah, you must completely abandon worldly goals. Others become so obsessed with worldly goals that they forget Allah entirely. Islam teaches a far more beautiful balance. Islam does not tell you to hate the dunya. Islam teaches you not to become attached to it. There is a huge difference. You can own wealth without letting wealth own you. You can pursue success without worshipping success. You can enjoy blessings without becoming dependent on blessings. The problem begins when the dunya enters the heart, because once it enters the heart, it becomes difficult to remove. Suddenly, your happiness depends on possessions. Your confidence depends on achievements. Your identity depends on status. Your peace depends on circumstances. And when any of those things disappear, your entire world begins to shake. But the believer learns a different way of living. The believer understands that everything in this dunya is temporary. Wealth is temporary. Beauty is temporary. Health is temporary. Youth is temporary. Fame is temporary. Even life itself is temporary. One day, every possession will be left behind. Every title will disappear. Every worldly achievement will become a memory. And eventually, every human being will stand before Allah alone. When you truly understand this reality, your relationship with the dunya changes. You stop clinging to things so tightly. You stop panicking when circumstances change. You stop making temporary things the center of your life. Instead, you begin seeing the dunya as a tool, a blessing to use, a trust to manage, a temporary journey before the eternal destination. This mindset creates incredible peace. Because when wealth comes, you remain grateful. When wealth leaves, you remain patient. When success comes, you remain humble. When success is delayed, you remain hopeful. Because your heart is attached to Allah, not to the gift itself. Look at many of the people who seem to have everything in today's world. They have money, they have influence, they have luxury. Yet many of them still struggle with anxiety, emptiness, and dissatisfaction. Why? Because the dunya can entertain the mind, but it cannot satisfy the soul. Only Allah can satisfy the soul. Only closeness to Allah can fill the emptiness that worldly things cannot reach. This is why the most successful believers are not necessarily those who possess the most. They are the ones who remain connected to Allah regardless of what they possess. If Allah gives them wealth, they thank Him. If Allah takes it away, they trust Him. If Allah gives them influence, they use it for good. If Allah tests them with difficulty, they remain patient. Their stability comes from Allah, not from circumstances. The secret to winning this dunya is not rejecting it completely. The secret is learning how to use it without becoming enslaved by it. Own things without letting things own you. Pursue success without making it your God. Enjoy blessings without forgetting their giver. Because the believer who keeps the dunya in his hands and Allah in his heart possesses a success that no loss can destroy and no hardship can take away. When you make the Akhirah your priority, Allah places barakah in everything you touch. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to have very little, yet they live with extraordinary peace? And at the same time, some people appear to have everything the world can offer, yet they remain restless, anxious, and unsatisfied. One person has a small home but sleeps peacefully every night. Another has a mansion but cannot find contentment. One person has limited wealth but feels rich. Another possesses millions yet constantly fears losing more. Why does this happen? Because true success has never been about how much you possess. It has always been about what possesses your heart. One of the greatest lessons Islam teaches is that the people who truly win this dunya are the people who never make it their ultimate goal. This sounds strange to many people. The world tells you to make money your priority. The world tells you to chase status. The world tells you to chase popularity. The world tells you to build your entire identity around temporary achievements. But Islam teaches something completely different. Islam teaches that when the Akhirah becomes your primary concern, Allah places barakah in your worldly life. And barakah is something money cannot buy. Barakah is when little becomes enough. Barakah is when your time becomes productive. Barakah is when your income stretches further than expected. Barakah is when your family brings peace to your heart. Barakah is when your efforts produce results greater than you imagined. Barakah is one of the greatest treasures Allah can give a believer. Many people spend their lives chasing more. More money, more followers, more recognition, more possessions. Yet they never stop to ask whether Allah has placed barakah in what they already have. Because without barakah, even abundance can feel empty. And with barakah, even a little can feel like plenty. The believer understands a secret that many people never discover. The purpose of life is not to collect as much dunya as possible. The purpose of life is to prepare for the meeting with Allah. And something amazing happens when a person begins living with this understanding. His priorities change. His perspective changes. His definition of success changes. He still works hard. He still pursues goals. He still strives for excellence. But he no longer sacrifices his Akhirah for temporary gains. He no longer abandons his prayers for money. He no longer compromises his values for acceptance. He no longer chases success at the expense of his relationship with Allah, because he realizes that every worldly achievement will eventually come to an end. One day, your wealth will stay behind. One day, your position will disappear. One day, your reputation will no longer matter. One day, people will stop speaking about your accomplishments. And on that day, the only thing that will remain is what you sent ahead for the Akhirah. This realization is not meant to make you fearful. It is meant to make you focused, because the believer is not living for 70 or 80 years. The believer is preparing for eternity. And when eternity becomes your focus, temporary setbacks lose their power over you. A delayed opportunity no longer destroys you. A financial loss no longer breaks you. A disappointment no longer defines you. Because you understand that this life was never the final destination. It was only the journey. The greatest success is not reaching the top of the world while losing your connection with Allah. The greatest success is reaching Allah while using this world as a means to get closer to Him. If you want to truly win this dunya, then make the Akhirah your highest priority. Seek Allah before seeking status. Seek Jannah before seeking recognition. Seek His pleasure before seeking people's approval. And watch what happens. Allah places peace in your heart. Allah places contentment in your soul. Allah places barakah in your time, your wealth, your family, and your efforts. Because when you live for the Akhirah, you do not lose the Dunya. You gain the best of both worlds. And that is the greatest victory a believer can ever achieve. Ya Allah, fill our hearts with love for you, more than love for this dunya. Grant us success that brings us closer to you, not further away from you. Protect us from pride in times of ease and despair in times of hardship. Place barakah in our wealth, our time, our families, and our efforts. Make us among those who win this dunya without losing their Akhirah. Forgive our sins, accept our du'as, and grant us Jannatul Firdaus without account. Ameen.